In the heart of a quiet meadow surrounded by whispering pines and gentle streams, lived a small hedgehog named Henry. Henry was not the fastest, nor the strongest, nor the most daring of the meadow creatures. But he was kind, so kind that even the grumpiest badger or the most hurried squirrel couldn't help but soften when he came near. His round little body was covered in short, shiny brown quills, and his curious black eyes sparkled like dewdrops in the morning light. Henry lived under a tangle of roots at the base of a great oak tree. Every morning, he would step out of his snug burrow and sniff the air to see what kind of day it would be. Most days, it smelled of wildflowers, pine, and adventure. Henry liked those days best. He would then waddle to the stream to greet his friends, because that's what Henry did best. He noticed others and cared. One breezy morning, as the sun yawned over the horizon and the grass glistened with fresh dew, Henry found his friend Molly the mouse sitting by the stream looking very sad. Molly was usually full of chatter and laughter, but now her tiny paws were folded together, and her whiskers drooped. "What's wrong, Molly?" Henry asked gently, lowering himself beside her. "It's my nest," she sighed. "The wind last night blew it apart. I tried to fix it, but the twigs keep breaking. I don't know where my babies will sleep tonight." Henry thought for a moment. He wasn't very good at weaving or building, but he wanted to help. "Maybe I can find you some new twigs, stronger ones," he said. So, while Molly rested, Henry scurried around the meadow. He searched under bushes and near fallen logs, picking up the sturdiest twigs he could find. His paws grew dirty, and his quills caught bits of leaves, but he didn't mind. By the time he returned, his small pile of twigs was almost as tall as he was. "Henry!" Molly squeaked in surprise. "That's perfect." Together, they built a new nest, even sturdier than the old one. Molly's babies snuggled inside, warm and safe. "Thank you," she whispered, her eyes shining. "You always know how to help." Henry blushed beneath his quills. "I just do what I can." That night, as he lay in his burrow, he felt something soft in his chest, a warmth that came from knowing he'd made someone's day better. He didn't know it yet, but that small act of kindness would ripple further than he could imagine. The next day brought a different sound to the meadow, a strange, sad cry echoing near the edge of the forest. Henry, curious as ever, followed the sound until he came across a young rabbit named Rosie. She was sitting beside a patch of mud, her long ears drooping and her fur messy. "Rosie, are you all right?" Henry asked. "My kite," she sniffled, pointing a muddy paw toward a tall bush. Sure enough, a bright red kite was tangled high up in the branches, fluttering helplessly. "It got stuck, and now I can't reach it." Henry tilted his head. The bush was too tall for him to climb, and his short legs wouldn't let him jump that high. But then he noticed something. At the base of the bush was a small mound of dirt. "Let's make a ladder," he said. Rosie blinked. "Out of dirt?" "Out of dirt and stones," Henry replied confidently. "We'll make steps." It took them most of the morning. Rosie fetched stones, and Henry pushed dirt into little mounds with his snout. Slowly, they built a wobbly but steady path up the bush. With a little teamwork and a lot of determination, Rosie managed to reach her kite. She waved it proudly in the air, laughing again. "Oh, Henry, you're amazing," she said, hopping in circles. Henry chuckled. "Not amazing. Just helping." When Rosie bounced away, Henry felt that familiar warmth again, deeper now, like a glow that filled him from nose to tail. Helping others, he thought, felt better than anything else in the world. Days passed, and autumn began to creep into the meadow. The air grew crisp, and the leaves painted the trees gold and crimson. One morning, as Henry was collecting berries for the winter, he noticed something unusual. The stream that ran through the meadow had slowed to a trickle. Normally, it babbled cheerfully, but now it was quiet and weak. The ducks quacked nervously, and the fish flickered near the muddy banks. Henry waddled upstream until he found the problem. A pile of fallen branches had blocked the flow, forming a small dam. The beavers who lived downstream must have built it accidentally, or perhaps it had been washed together during the last storm. "Oh dear," Henry murmured. "If the water stops, everyone will suffer." He tried to push one of the branches away, but it was too heavy for him. He puffed and pushed and even rolled against it, but it wouldn't budge. He sat back, panting, and thought hard. Then he remembered something his friend Toby the tortoise always said: when you can't do something alone, ask for help. That's what friends are for. Henry hurried back to the meadow and gathered all the animals he could find: Molly the mouse, Rosie the rabbit, Toby the tortoise, and even a few birds from the nearby trees. "There's a blockage in the stream," Henry explained. "We need to clear it, or the water will dry up." The animals looked at one another, then nodded. "Let's do it," Rosie said. Working together, they pulled, pushed, and tugged at the branches. The birds helped by pecking at the smaller twigs, while Toby used his sturdy shell to nudge the larger ones. Henry scurried around, giving directions and encouragement. At last, with one big heave, the biggest branch rolled free, and the water began to rush again, sparkling under the afternoon sun. The animals cheered, and the ducks quacked joyfully as the stream came back to life. "Henry, you saved the meadow," Molly squeaked. Henry smiled shyly. "We all did." But that night, when he curled into his nest, he thought about how kindness could grow. One small act could lead to another, and soon it became something much larger, like a chain made of care and friendship. As the weeks passed, the meadow thrived again. The stream flowed clear and strong, the trees rustled with happy whispers, and every creature seemed to walk with a lighter step. Whenever someone needed help, it became almost a habit for the others to lend a paw or a wing. One chilly morning, when the first frost touched the grass, Henry woke to find a strange visitor outside his burrow, a fox with golden fur and tired eyes. "Good morning," Henry said cautiously. The fox nodded politely. "Good morning, little one. I'm Fern. I've come from the hills beyond the forest. The snow came early there, and food is scarce. I was hoping to find something to eat here." Henry could tell Fern was hungry. Her paws were muddy, and her fur was tangled from travel. Most animals would have been afraid. Foxes had sharp teeth, after all, but Henry saw the weariness in her eyes and felt only concern. "Wait here," he said. "I'll bring you something." He disappeared into his burrow and came back with a small pile of berries, some nuts, and a few seeds. "It's not much," he said, "but it'll help until you find more." Fern blinked in surprise. "You'd share your food with me?" "Of course," said Henry. "Winter is hard enough. No one should go hungry." The fox ate slowly, savoring each bite. When she finished, she looked at Henry with a softness that few ever saw in a fox's gaze. "You're very kind," she said. "I'll remember this." And she did. Winter came in full, blanketing the meadow in snow. Henry stayed mostly in his burrow, sleeping and nibbling on the food he'd stored. But one particularly stormy night, the wind howled so loudly that it shook the trees. Henry's burrow trembled, and a thick branch fell, blocking the entrance. He pushed and pushed, but it wouldn't move. He was trapped. The air grew cold, and snow began to drift through the cracks. Henry shivered, curling tighter into his quills. "Oh dear," he whispered. "I hope someone finds me." Outside, the storm raged for hours. But as dawn began to break, a shadow appeared above the fallen branch. A gentle, determined snout began to dig, and strong paws pulled away the snow. Bit by bit, the branch was lifted, and light poured into Henry's burrow. It was Fern. "Henry," she called. "Are you all right?" Henry blinked up at her, amazed. "Fern. How did you?" "I remembered your kindness," she said simply. And I couldn't forget the hedgehog who helped a hungry fox. She guided him out into the crisp morning air. The meadow glittered with frost, and the world was still. Henry breathed deeply, feeling safe again. "Thank you," he said softly. Fern smiled. "You helped me when I needed it. Now I'm helping you. That's how kindness works, isn't it?" Henry nodded. "Yes, it is." When spring finally returned, melting the snow and waking the flowers, the meadow was more beautiful than ever. The animals greeted one another with joy, and the stream sang its cheerful song once more. And wherever Henry went, smiles followed. Because everyone remembered the little hedgehog who helped, the one whose small kindnesses had changed their meadow forever. And though Henry never thought of himself as special, his friends knew better. For in his quiet, humble way, Henry had shown them all that even the smallest creature, with the simplest heart, could make the biggest difference, just by choosing to care. And from that day on, whenever the meadow breeze carried the soft rustle of leaves or the gentle hum of life, it seemed to whisper Henry's secret. Kindness doesn't need to be loud or grand. It just needs to be shared.